Alright, welcome guys. Today I'll show you how to do logbooks properly with GLAU ink. And for the first part is to fill out the basic information, which it's the name of carrier or carriers, which for us it's GLAU ink. Then it's the main office address and the home terminal address, which for us they're the same, so you can write the same address on both lines, or you're just on the first one and then the second one here you could just write same. Then it's the date, the truck and trailer numbers, which these will be given to you. Do not actually write these numbers, and this is not our actual address. Then it's the shipping documents. The BL stands for bill of lading or manifest number. So your bill of lading number, you put it here. If you don't have it, then you put shipper and commodity. Alright. And that's just the basic info. The next part would be filling out this part. Alright, so first you need to know what these four mean. So off duty means you're not doing anything related to the truck. It means you're either having lunch, having a bathroom break, something not related to the truck. Alright, sleeper berth means you're in the back of the truck in the sleeper, either sleeping or laying down. Alright, next is driving. This actually means that you're driving the truck, you're actually operating the vehicle behind the wheel. And the last one is on duty, not driving. This means you're doing something related to the truck. So this is basically loading, unloading, pre-trip inspection, post-trip inspection, fuel, tolls, and if you get pulled over by a trooper, inspection. That's all on duty. This has nothing to do with if you're getting paid by the percent of the load, if you're an owner operator, if you're getting paid by the mile. This just means what you're doing, is it related to the truck or not. Now here I pulled out the Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration, the hours of service. So now that you know what the four off-duty, sleeper berth, driving, and on-duty, not driving mean, you need to know the hours of service. So you have the right to drive a maximum of 11 hours. Driving, that's your driving limit. You cannot drive more than 11 hours a day, alright? And you have a 14-hour limit. You can think about this as work, because your 14-hour limit is driving and on duty combined. So you can drive 11 hours a day and be on duty for 3 hours. The reason it's 14 hours is because there's 24 hours in a day, and 10 of those hours need to be off duty and sleeper berth. Alright, so you have the right to drive 11 hours a day, and you have a 14-hour limit, which is driving in on duty. Alright, now rest breaks means after the 8th hour of your 14-hour limit, which consists of a mix of driving and on duty. When you add them together, after the 8th hour you need to take at least 30 minutes off duty break. Alright, you can be an hour, 2 hours, doesn't matter, but it has to be off duty for at least 30 minutes. Alright, now there's next is the 60 and 70 hour, which means basically for 7 days if you have the right to drive 60 hours. And the most common one is the 70 hours for an 8-day period, which means for 8 days you have the right to drive 70 hours. So let's say you're driving 70 hours for 8 days. Alright, if you finish your 70 hours and it's not the 8th day, let's say it's the 5th day, no, 6th day, 7th, doesn't matter. Once you finish those 70 hours, you need to take 34 or more consecutive hours off duty, which is a refresh period and then you can now drive once again for 8 days, 70 hours. But let's say you drove 50 hours for 8 days. Well, what that means is that once the 8th day has finished, you must take the 34-hour reset period, even though you didn't drive those 70 hours. That's the rule. Alright? And lastly is the sleeper berth provision, which drivers using the sleeper berth provision must take at least 8 consecutive hours in sleeper berth plus a separate 2 consecutive hours either in sleeper berth, off duty, or any combination of the two. So what this means is that you need 10 hours, which 8 of them must be in sleeper berth, continuous. That's what consecutive means. So 8 continuous hours, they can be more, and plus another 2 consecutive hours that are either spent in sleeper berth or off duty. Alright, or a combination. I mean, you can have 8 consecutive hours in sleeper berth, you can take 1 hour off duty and then go back to 1 hour of sleeper berth, doesn't matter. Now that you know the rules, let's look at how this logbooks work. So let's say it's day 1. You don't actually have to write this, I just wrote it so we know, or so I can show you. Alright, so day 1, you woke up early, you got to your truck at 6, and the first thing you do is your pre-trip inspection. Alright, so PTI, pre-trip inspection, or you can write pre-trip, it doesn't matter. You write the city and the state, New York, New York. Alright, once you do your PTI, which has to be at least 15 minutes on duty, because it's related to the truck, you can start driving. And when you get loaded, you write loading, the city and the state. Alright, and when you do your post-trip inspection, PTI again, you write the city you are currently at and the state. Alright, but notice this. We ended up in Fort Wayne, Indiana, but we started in New York and we're going from and to Chicago. Well, when you get loaded, you're giving the bill of lading, which you write the number, which is a made-up one. Alright, well, you got loaded in New York. I mean, you could start in New Jersey and pick up in New York, but you have to write from, which is where you picked up. You got loaded, New York, to where you're headed to currently, which is Chicago, Illinois. Alright? Alright, let's look at how the logbook works. Exactly. Alright, so you woke up, and at 6 a.m. you did your PTI, and you drove, you picked up, and you drove. So from 6 to noon, that's 6 hours. Alright? And another 2, that's 8 hours of driving and on duty. So that's the 8-hour rule. So you must take a rest break of at least 30 minutes. Notice you didn't drive for 8 hours. You were on duty and driving for 8 hours. So then you have the right to drive, until it's 11 hours, and then you do your PTI. Post trip, and then you immediately have to go to. You go to immediately off duty and sleeper berth. Alright, so when you add up all your hours, your off duty hours, they add up to 9, your sleeper berth to 3, driving 11, on duty 1, they have to add up to 24. If they don't add up to 24, you're doing something wrong. You're adding up wrong. So always check. Alright, now let's focus on this area right here. Notice I wrote a 14 because this can never be over 14. 14 and that's it. No higher than 14. Because remember, 10 hours, 8 hours of sleeper berth and 2 hours of, doesn't matter, either off duty or sleeper berth, have to be spent. And you only can work 14 hours, which that means you can only be 14 hours of driving on duty of the 24 hours in the day. So if you look here, a recap: complete at end of workday, on duty hours today, total lines 3 and 4, which are driving on duty. So let's see, 11 plus 1 is 12. So we're doing a 70-hour, 8-day drivers. So total hours on duty last 7 days, including today. Well, 12 hours. So total hours available tomorrow, 70 hours minus A. So 70 minus 12, it's 58. This is how many hours you have left, and this is how many hours you have currently drove. And total hours on duty last 8 days, including today. Well, these two usually should be the same, unless you're on the 8th day, then they're different. But it's 12, because today's the first day. Let's review. Day 1, you worked, you had a on duty and driving time combined of 12 hours. Now if you look at day 2 logbook, alright, your driving and on duty times is 10 hours and 45 minutes with 1 hour and 30 minutes. This adds up to 12 hours and 15 minutes. And if you're not somebody that's good at math, or you're scared of messing up, you know, because 15 minutes is a quarter, 30 minutes is half an hour, so that's a half, and 45 minutes is 0.75, 3/4. You can actually do this, you know, 2 hours and 2,030 minutes. But let's see how this would be filled out. It's really simple, guys. So this is from the first day, and this is from day 2. So you wrote, you know, your lines 3 and 4 add up, you're driving on duty, add up to 12 hours and 15 minutes. So you would add this to A from the previous day, total hours on duty for the last 7 days, and the total hours you were on duty and driving today. So 12 plus 12, 24 and 15 minutes. And you would take this and you would subtract it from 75. Alright, so this is how much you this is how many hours you have been on duty and driving, and this is how many hours you have the right to be on duty and driving. Alright, so let's look at day 3. Day 3, you've been driving and on duty for 10 hours plus 10.5 hours plus 3/4 on duty. So that adds up to 11 hours. 11 hours and a quarter. Alright, so previous day you drove for 24 hours and a quarter, so you would add up 11 hours and a quarter. So 11 plus 24 is 35, and a quarter plus a quarter, it's 1/2. So the total hours, you know, this and this is from the previous day for the last 7 days. This is for the current day. This is the total hours on duty that you have been on, driving and on duty, and this is how much hours you have left to be driving and on duty. Alright, and this is the total hours for the last 8 days, which these two are usually the same except for on the 8th day. And that's how you guys do this. Once this reaches 0, you cannot drive even 15 minutes. You must stop once this reaches 0 and this hits 70. Alright, that's when the refresh period kicks in. Let's look at day 2. Alright, so if you remember, we picked up in New York, we stopped in Fort Wayne, Indiana, and now we had 2.5 hours off duty. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Now I could start working, but I feel a little more tired, so I decided to take another hour of sleeping. So first things always, you do your pre-trip inspection, you label the city and the state, and you drive. Once you get unloaded, and you get loaded. Notice, I was still driving the load from New York to Chicago. I reached Chicago and I got unloaded. Now I got a new load. So I still have to write the old load number, and I put a little dash so you can see, they're two different, and I put the new load number. Alright, and for the next logbook, this is what I have to do. I was loaded in Chicago, and where am I headed now? Chicago to Los Angeles. The thing I forgot to mention was, let's say you're taking a break, an hour break from 1 till 2. Well, do not actually start driving again until 2, because let's say, at 1:45, 15 minutes before you've written that your break ends, you start up a truck, and this has happened that 15 minutes before the break ends, some drivers started the truck and immediately a trooper would pull them over, stop them, and when they said, let's look at the logbooks, well, they notice for 15 minutes that they've been driving, they actually falsified and lied. That's what it would go down as falsification. Instead of being off duty, you've been driving, so you can get an out of service for that and a ticket because it's technically falsifying. So do not, write your logbooks ahead. If you have a break from a certain time until the hour ends, or exactly at the hour, do not, start driving. Alright, and again, if you're off duty, that means, or sleeper berth, you're not putting in fuel, so do not put in fuel. One really important thing is to match your miles. So, from Atlanta, Georgia to Jacksonville, Florida, the distance is 350 miles. The speed limit is 65 miles per hour. If you divide 65 by 350, it's roughly a little less than 6 hours. But if for a distance of 350 at this speed limit, it's about a 6-hour drive. Alright, so notice here you woke up, you did your pre-trip inspection, you drove, you got unloaded, you did your post-trip inspection, and you were off duty. Well, for a distance of 350, so let's just say it's 65 miles per hour on the highway. I'm not really sure what it is. If you wrote that you made it from Georgia to Florida, Jacksonville, in less than 3 hours, well, that's pretty much saying you were going at over 100 miles per hour. And when DOT comes in, or if a trooper stops you and sees this, you will get a ticket. That's not realistic, alright? And if you're going to do on duty, and you're going to do 2 things during the on duty, please, this isn't perfect, I didn't do it really well, but label, the first 15 minutes was unloading, and then next 15 minutes is your post-trip inspection, and that's it. Alright, this is more realistic. So at 350 miles, if you drove at 65 miles per hour, and remember, you're not always on the highway, you're a little street, so basically it would be 6 hours. Alright, let's focus on this part now. If we continue, we had a 8-hour, let's say, sleeper berth, and then a little in 2 hours off duty. So first thing is always you do your pre-trip inspection, and notice that we drove 6 hours, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and we had a on duty of 15 minutes. So you had been on duty and driving for 6 hours and 15 minutes. And you can, if you decide to take your break earlier, that's perfectly fine. If you're feeling tired, it's better to take a break than risk anything. Alright, so if you don't know where, what city and state is, let's say a restaurant's off a highway, you're not sure, you can actually put, the highway, lunch, or break, it doesn't matter. Alright, you driving, you go back to driving, and after you break, you don't have to do a pre-trip, and before you break, you don't have to do a post-trip. That's at the end of the day, right before you go to sleeper berth, that's when you do your post-trip. So notice that you go back to driving, you need to put fuel. So if you're ever putting fuel, or let's say you have an inspection, this is what you have to do: fuel or inspection, toll, whatever, the city and the state. Alright, and you put it as on duty, and then you drive some more, and you do your pre-trip inspection. Alright, and notice I don't have the old bill of lading number, I just have the new one, which is just one, and from where I picked up to where I'm headed to. Alright, and same thing, fuel, it can be more, it has to be at least 15 minutes, it can be more, maybe less, doesn't matter. However much it takes, that's perfectly fine. And everything here needs to be filled out on every single logbook. I forgot to these right before I did them. I did it on the other ones though, on the previous, for the first three I did. Alright. I just want to show you. So once on your last day, let's say it's your 6th day of your 8 days, 70 hours. Once you know the top is 70, you cannot drive anymore. You know, hours on duty last 77 days, including today. And once the total hours available for tomorrow is 0, you cannot drive anymore. So this is when you take your 34-hour reset. Alright, so you started at 5, which is 7 hours today of off duty. The next day is 36, so 7 from the previous, that's plus the 24, that's 31. So you can now at 3 a.m. It will be exactly 34 hours, and then you can start driving. But until then you cannot. And let's say you have the weekend off, you know, it's 2 days, you can just do this off duty, you know, put the date, or put it here, you know, from the 1st to the 3rd. Let's say it's Saturday and Sunday, or Friday, Saturday, Sunday. You just put, so you have to fill out, and of course sign it. You always have to have your logbook signed, and that's it. That's how you do it. But if you're doing a reset period, or if you are off duty, it's really important you don't put fuel in the truck, because you cannot have a reset period and put fuel, because then when the DOT comes in for inspection, sees the fuel card transaction and sees in the middle of this 34-hour reset period that you have put fuel, you can get an out of service or a ticket. That's why whenever you're being off duty or sleeper berth, do not put fuel in the truck. When you're picking up a bill of load, you're getting loaded or unloaded, you have to look at the bill of lading for if there is a time, and you have to match exactly when you're getting loaded and unloaded if there is a time. You also have to match when you're putting in fuel, exactly when as close as possible. You can be 15 minutes off, that's it, no more. If you went at 12 o'clock, put in fuel to 12:30, you have to match it noon, 12 to 12:30. Action, city, state. Same thing for tolls, for inspections. If you get pulled over and you get a ticket and it says, you know, you're being your vehicle searched from noon to 12:30, from 12 to 12:30, you have to label that as on duty. Any tolls, anything like that, you have to label it, and it has to match as close as possible. And you also have to save any toll receipts, your fuel receipts, all bill of ladings, and your logbooks. And at the end, you have to ship them to us. Alright? And or you can fax them to us. Alright? And one more thing, when you do logbooks, you actually have to use this, or you can actually take a picture of your logbooks or fax them to us if you don't want to do this. And because you need to have your last 7 days, your last week logbooks with you, your bill of lading also needs to be signed when you're picking up or you're unloading, by the shipper, by the whoever is loading you, and send it as soon as possible. Either fax it to us or take a picture and send it to us. At the end, what you need to do is send us all your fuel receipts, save them up, don't throw them away, your bill of ladings for loading and unloading, any toll receipts, any tickets you might have got, I forgot and missed that, and your logbooks. Alright? That's it, but don't forget your bill of ladings. You need to take a picture and send it to us or fax it as soon as possible, you know, at a truck stop when you get it. Your logbooks, you can actually take a picture and send them to us or fax them to us along with the fuel and toll receipts. And at the end, when you know you're sending the original bill of lading, you can put it in the envelope, the logbooks along with the bill of lading and the fuel receipts and the toll receipts. We're gonna need everything here. Alright, thank you.